My daughter refused to step into our house. We had just pulled into the driveway. She unbuckled her seatbelt, but instead of running to the front door like she always did, she grabbed my hand and froze. I asked her what was wrong. She didn't answer. Her face turned pale, and she pointed toward the top floor window, my bedroom window. "Mom," she whispered, "oh, look at the window." I followed her gaze. My entire body tensed. Behind the curtain, I saw the outline of a person, still, watching us, just standing there in my bedroom on the third floor. No one was supposed to be in the house. I pulled Kaya behind me and called 911. My hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped the phone. The dispatcher asked me if anyone else had access to the home. Only my sister, and she wasn't answering. I hadn't heard from her since last night, when she sent me a picture of Kaya smiling from inside a blanket fort. I had been gone less than 24 hours. I watched the police storm into my house. I kept Kaya pressed against me, trying to stay calm while my heart felt like it was breaking through my ribs. It wasn't just fear, it was betrayal. Something was deeply wrong, and I felt it before anyone said a word. What the officers found inside wasn't just disturbing, it was personal. It was something I could never have imagined, something my own sister had set in motion. And it all started with one choice: letting her babysit my daughter for just one night. My name is Alyssa. I'm 34, a single mom, and the only constant in my daughter Kaya's life. She's 6 years old and fiercely imaginative. She gives names to her stuffed animals, talks to plants, and insists that the moon follows her at night. She is the center of my world. My life revolves around making sure she feels safe, heard, and loved. We live in a 2-bedroom townhouse just outside Portland. It's a quiet neighborhood filled with dog walkers, retired couples, and the occasional teenager mowing lawns for cash. It's not perfect, but it's home. I keep our space clean, cozy, and predictable because stability is something Kaya needs. After my ex-husband left 2 years ago and moved to Denver, it's been just the two of us. I haven't had the luxury of letting my guard down since. There's no second parent, no backup plan. I'm it. Balancing motherhood and work is something I've gotten good at out of necessity. I work as a remote marketing consultant, which sounds more flexible than it is. Most days I'm juggling client emails with peanut butter sandwiches and rushing through presentations during nap time or after bedtime. I rarely go out. I don't date. I don't travel. But last week, I had to. My team had landed a high-stakes client, and the final presentation was happening in person, in Seattle. Just one night. That's all they needed me for. One night away, a quick hotel stay, and back the next evening. At first, I said no. I couldn't bear the idea of leaving Kaya. But the job was important. It wasn't just about income. It was about security. The kind of security that keeps the lights on and groceries in the fridge. That's when my younger sister, Rhea, offered to step in. Rhea is 28 and everything I'm not. She's spontaneous, impulsive, and wildly unpredictable. She's never held a job longer than a year, loves festivals, couch hops between cities, and has a tendency to romanticize chaos. But she loves Kaya. They have a bond that's undeniable. Rhea is the fun aunt, the one who teaches her silly dances, brings glitter wherever she goes, and buys matching pajamas even though she's terrible at folding laundry. Still, I hesitated. Rhea had never watched Kaya overnight. I knew she cared, but I also knew she could be careless. She had a way of brushing off rules and improvising in moments that needed structure. But she begged. She told me she was trying to be more responsible. She wanted me to trust her. "It's just one night, Alyssa," she said. "We'll eat mac and cheese, watch movies, and be in bed by 9. It'll be boring." I swear I made her promise to stay the entire night. No visitors, no leaving Kaya alone. I walked her through Kaya's routines, made a printed list of emergency numbers, stocked the fridge, and showed her how to use the home alarm system. She rolled her eyes but agreed to everything. Kaya was thrilled. When I left that morning, Kaya wrapped her arms around my neck and whispered, "I'll take care of Auntie Rhea." It made me smile, but part of me felt uneasy. I kissed her forehead, told her I'd be home tomorrow, and backed out of the driveway, watching her wave at me through the window. The presentation went well. My team nailed it. We celebrated briefly, and I checked my phone every hour for updates. Rhea sent me a picture around 4 p.m. Kaya buried in a mountain of pillows, holding a juice box like a trophy. The caption read, Still alive. I allowed myself to exhale. Maybe I'd been overthinking. That night, I called to say goodnight. No answer. I texted her. Nothing. I assumed Kaya had fallen asleep and Rhea had left her phone somewhere. Still, it bothered me. I don't sleep well when Kaya's not next to me, so I lay in my hotel bed, counting the hours until I could go home. The next afternoon, I picked up muffins from Kaya's favorite bakery and drove straight home. I expected her to run into my arms at the door. Instead, I saw her sitting outside on the curb, alone. Mrs. Delgado, our neighbor, stood nearby, arms crossed and tense. Kaya didn't move until I got out of the car. Then she ran to me and held me like she hadn't seen me in weeks. I looked around. No Rhea, no car in the driveway, no messages on my phone. I crouched down and asked Kaya what happened. Her eyes filled with fear. She pointed at the house. "I don't want to go back in," she said. Then came the words that made my stomach drop. "Mom, look at the window." I didn't know what to say. I was still holding Kaya's hand when she pointed to the window, the one on the third floor, my bedroom. I followed her gaze, and that's when I saw it. Behind the curtain, someone was standing there, still, watching. Just standing like they belonged there, but no one was supposed to be in that house. The only person with a key was Rhea, and she was nowhere in sight. I stepped back instinctively, pulling Kaya with me. My heart was racing. I didn't blink. I didn't speak. My daughter, barely 6, had sensed something was wrong before I had even parked the car. She hadn't gone near the front door. She knew something I didn't. Mrs. Delgado saw my face and came closer. "What's going on?" she asked. I shook my head and told her quietly to keep Kaya with her. I didn't want my daughter anywhere near the house. She nodded, took Kaya gently by the shoulders, and walked her across the street. Kaya looked back at me with wide, scared eyes, but she didn't protest. I dialed 911 and told the dispatcher that there was someone in my house. I gave them the address and explained that only my sister should have had access, but she wasn't answering her phone. My voice shook, but I stayed clear and firm. The dispatcher told me to stay where I was, not to approach the house, and that police were already on their way. My hands were trembling as I hung up. I tried calling Rhea again, straight to voicemail. My stomach was tight, my skin clammy. I kept staring at the window, waiting for the curtain to move again, but whoever was inside stayed hidden. That made it worse. The stillness. The waiting. Police arrived within 10 minutes. 2 patrol cars pulled up to the curb. The officers moved quickly. One of them asked for my name and if anyone else should be in the house. I said no, only Rhea. And she wasn't there. He nodded and gestured to the other officer to take the back entrance while he approached the front. I couldn't take my eyes off the house. It felt unreal. I had just come home from a normal work trip. I had dropped off my daughter with her aunt. I had trusted someone I had known my entire life. And now my daughter was terrified to go inside the place where she sleeps. A few minutes later, I watched the officers enter through the front door. They moved cautiously, one hand near their holsters, the other on flashlights. The tension in my body was so tight I felt like I could snap. I tried to piece together what could have gone wrong. Rhea was flighty, yes, but she wouldn't abandon Kaya. Would she? She wasn't malicious, but she had poor judgment. She'd made dangerous choices before. Maybe she left to meet someone and locked the door behind her, thinking Kaya would be fine asleep. Maybe she thought she'd be back before I returned. Maybe she thought no one would notice. But that didn't explain the figure in the window. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until the officers returned. One of them looked calm. The other looked shaken. "Ma'am," the first one said, "we found someone inside." That sentence made my knees weak. "Who?" The second officer spoke this time. "A man. He was hiding in your bedroom closet." I stared at him, unable to process what he'd just said. "We believe he entered sometime last night or early this morning. He claims he was let in." "What?" My voice cracked. "By who?" "He said your sister invited him, gave him food, told him he could stay until you got back." I was silent. I could feel every part of my body tighten, like my brain was trying to shut out what I had just heard. "He's not related to you, is he?" the officer asked. I've never met anyone like that in my life. They told me the man was being detained, but that he didn't resist. He was calm, even relaxed. He didn't have any weapons on him. He seemed confused, disoriented, and when they asked him why he was there, he kept saying the same thing. She said it was okay. She said I could sleep here. She said she'd be back. My skin crawled. My mouth went dry. All I could think about was Kaya. My daughter had been inside that house with him. She'd been asleep, alone, while some stranger hid in my closet. I looked back across the street where she was sitting with Mrs. Delgado. She was watching me, holding her knees to her chest. I still hadn't heard a word from Rhea. I stood frozen on the sidewalk as the officers finished clearing the house. I had just been told that a man, a complete stranger, had spent the night inside my home. My daughter had been there too, alone. I could still hear his voice in my head, the words the officers repeated to me. She said I could sleep here. She said she'd be back. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a break-in. My sister had invited him in. My hands were clenched into fists. My chest felt tight, but I forced myself to stay focused. I walked across the street to Kaya. Her eyes met mine, questioning, afraid. I bent down and wrapped my arms around her. "You're okay," I said. "I've got you. You're safe now." I didn't tell her what happened. I didn't ask more questions. Not yet. Mrs. Delgado offered to take Kaya inside for a snack while I spoke with the officers again. I hesitated, but Kaya nodded. "I like her," she whispered. I nodded back, kissed her on the cheek, and thanked Mrs. Delgado quietly. Once Kaya was inside, I turned to the officer who had spoken with the man. "Tell me everything," I said. The man they found was in his mid-30s, no ID, no phone, and based on his appearance, likely homeless. He hadn't entered forcibly. There were no signs of damage, no broken locks or busted windows. He told the officers he had met my sister at a bus stop 2 days earlier. She had brought him food, talked to him, and offered him a place to stay. He claimed she seemed kind, open, and said she wanted to help someone who had nothing. I asked if he had hurt Kaya. The officer said no. According to the man, she had been asleep before he entered the house. He claimed Rhea gave him permission, left the door unlocked, and said she'd be back by morning. She never returned. It didn't make sense. It was reckless, dangerous, and utterly unlike anything I could have imagined. I tried to convince myself there had to be more to the story, some explanation that made this feel less insane. But there wasn't. I pulled out my phone and called Rhea again, straight to voicemail. I sent her a text message. "I know what you did. The police are here. Call me now." I stared at the screen, waiting for the typing bubble. Anything to show that she was still reachable. Nothing. I told the officers I wanted to file a full report. I didn't care if it meant my sister got in trouble. Kaya came first. Her safety came first. Every instinct in me as a mother screamed that what had happened was not just irresponsible, it was unforgivable. They gave me paperwork, a case number, and contact information for follow-up. I answered every question. Yes, Rhea had keys. No, she didn't live with us. Yes, Kaya had been left alone. No, I hadn't authorized anyone else to enter the home. After they left, I brought Kaya back into our house. It didn't feel like home anymore. Every shadow seemed darker, every hallway colder. I checked every room, every closet, every corner, even after the police had cleared it. I changed the bed sheets, washed the towels, opened every window. I couldn't breathe in the air that man had breathed. I couldn't let Kaya see me panic. I made her hot chocolate and sat beside her on the couch. "You did the right thing," I told her. "You told me something was wrong, and you were so brave." She leaned into me and whispered, "He scared me, Mommy. I saw him come down the stairs at night." My throat tightened. "You saw him?" I asked. She nodded, holding my sleeve. "But I stayed really quiet, like you always say. I didn't talk to him. I just waited for you." I held her tighter. She had seen him. She had stayed quiet. She had waited alone. And Rhea had left her there. That night, Rhea finally responded to my texts. She sent a single message. "I didn't mean to scare her. He just needed a place to crash. I thought I'd be back before you got home." I didn't reply. I didn't call her. There was nothing she could say that would undo what had happened. A man she barely knew had been in my home, in my room, while my daughter slept alone. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice. And I had made mine. Rhea wasn't welcome in our lives anymore. The morning after everything happened, I didn't sleep. I lay next to Kaya in my bed, wide awake, listening to her breathing. Every few minutes I'd glance at the door, half expecting to see movement, even though I knew we were alone. The man was gone. The police had taken him hours ago, but the fear hadn't left. Kaya stirred around 6 and climbed closer to me. Her body was small, her skin warm, her trust still intact. I didn't know how. I had left her in the care of someone I trusted, and she had been failed in the worst way. And still, she curled up next to me like nothing could touch her, like I was the safest place in the world. That made me more determined than ever to protect her. Around 8, Rhea finally called. I let it ring. Then I answered. Her voice was casual, like she didn't understand the weight of what she'd done. Hey, I saw your messages. Look, I know you're mad, but can we just talk before you do something drastic? I didn't yell. I didn't even raise my voice. I wanted her to hear everything clearly. There was a man in my house, I said. In my bedroom, in the closet. My daughter saw him come downstairs in the middle of the night. She was terrified. She sat outside waiting for me because she was too scared to be in her own home. There was a pause, followed by a sigh. I know it sounds bad, but it's not what you think. Then tell me what it is, I said. I met him at a bus stop a few days ago. He said he had nowhere to go. He wasn't creepy, Alyssa. He was just lost. I brought him some food. He seemed sweet. We talked. He said he needed somewhere to sleep, just for one night. And you let him into my house? With Kaya there? I thought she was asleep. I didn't think it would be a big deal. I figured I'd be back before she even woke up. You didn't tell me. You didn't ask me. You didn't even stay. Rhea's voice tightened. I was trying to help someone. You think the world is black and white, but sometimes people just need a chance. This isn't about chances. This is about a 6-year-old girl being left alone with a stranger in the house. You don't get to dress that up as compassion. He didn't hurt her. He could have. Silence followed, and then she said something I will never forget. I just didn't think it was that serious. That broke something in me. I realized she didn't understand, or maybe never would. She had walked away from her responsibility, gambled with a child's safety, and didn't feel the weight of it. That wasn't immaturity. That was recklessness. And it had consequences. I told her not to contact me again. I told her I would be changing the locks. I told her Kaya wouldn't be seeing her for a long time, maybe ever. And then I hung up. After the call, I sat Kaya down on the couch and told her the truth, in words she could understand. I told her that Aunt Rhea had made a mistake and had let someone in who shouldn't have been there. I told her how brave she had been, how proud I was of her for listening to her instincts, and how she had done exactly the right thing. Kaya looked down at her hands. I didn't like him, she said quietly. He smelled like old things, and he didn't blink when he looked at me. I felt a chill move through my chest. She had been alone with him for who knows how long, awake, watching, waiting. Later that day, I met with a locksmith. I replaced every lock in the house. I set up new security cameras, installed door alarms, and slept that night with my phone in one hand and a flashlight in the other. The police told me the man didn't have a record for violence, but he had a history of trespassing and psychiatric evaluations. They believed he hadn't meant harm. That didn't matter to me. Intent wasn't enough. My daughter had been endangered, and the person who allowed it still didn't grasp the full extent of her mistake. That week, I filed a formal no-contact request with the building management. Rhea would no longer be allowed on the property. It felt harsh, but I wasn't taking chances anymore. Kaya still asks about her sometimes. I tell her the truth, that Rhea loves her, but she made a very unsafe choice. I tell her love isn't just about fun and games. It's about showing up. It's about keeping people safe. I thought losing my trust in my sister would be the hardest part. It wasn't. The hardest part was realizing how close I had come to losing something far more important, and that from now on, I would never let guilt or family ties override what I know to be true. When it comes to Kaya, I will never compromise again. Life returned to normal, but nothing felt normal. Kaya and I went back to our routines: breakfast at the kitchen table, walks to school, bedtime stories every night. But a part of me was always listening, always watching. I checked the locks twice before bed. I installed a motion-activated light outside her window. I started keeping the baby monitor on again, even though she hadn't needed it for over a year. She never asked for it, but I could tell Kaya felt the difference. She didn't go into her bedroom for days after it happened. She stayed close to me even when she was playing, like she was waiting for something bad to return. And I stayed close to her, because I couldn't let myself be distant. Not now, not after what she had been forced to process, in silence. I enrolled her in a child therapist's program through her school. It was a quiet room with beanbags, art supplies, and a counselor who knew how to listen without pushing. Kaya didn't say much at first, but when I picked her up after her third session, she looked lighter. That night, she slept in her own bed again. And the night after that, she didn't ask me to leave the hallway light on. I had been carrying a weight, too. Guilt, anger, fear, and the awful question that kept echoing in my head. What if? What if Kaya hadn't been brave enough to wait outside? What if the man in our house had been dangerous? What if I hadn't come home when I did? Those questions didn't have answers, but they had consequences. Ria reached out several times in the following weeks, calls, texts, a handwritten letter left in our mailbox. She apologized in the way people do when they want forgiveness more than they want to understand the damage they've done. She said she missed Kaya. She said she had been going through a hard time and didn't know how to ask for help. She asked me to let her explain, but I had heard enough. I didn't need more words. I needed actions. And Ria's actions had made one thing clear. She had chosen to protect her own comfort instead of Kaya's safety. That was a choice I couldn't look past. I never sent a message back. I don't hate her. I still love her in the way you love someone who shares your blood and your childhood and the memories that shaped you. But love doesn't always earn trust. Trust is something you protect, something you prove. And once it's broken in the way she broke it, love alone is not enough to put the pieces back together. I've learned that boundaries are not punishment. They're protection. They're the shield you put around your life when someone has proven they can't be trusted to hold it gently. I learned that saying no isn't cruel. It's how you say yes to your child's safety, your own peace, and the life you're trying to build. Most of all, I learned to listen. To my instincts, to my daughter, to the voice in my gut that spoke quietly before I handed over the keys, and to the voice of a 6-year-old girl who whispered, "Mom, look at the window," when something felt wrong. That voice saved us. That moment changed everything. Kaya still remembers what happened, but she doesn't talk about it often. She'll mention it in fragments when something reminds her. That man didn't blink. I didn't like his shoes. I heard him breathing in the hallway. And I listen. Every time. Because the day she was scared and spoke up, she showed me just how much she sees, how much she feels, and how much she already understands about danger. I'm proud of her. More than proud. I trust her. She saw the truth before I did, and because of her, we're safe. Now, when I leave the house, even just for groceries, I look her in the eyes and say, "If anything feels wrong, you tell me, right away." And she always nods, serious and steady, because she knows. And I do too. This wasn't just a wake-up call. It was a line in the sand, a lesson that came at a cost, but one that taught me the most important rule of all. When it comes to your child's safety, there is no such thing as overreacting. You listen, you act, you protect. Every single time. Thank you for listening to my story. I shared it not just to get it off my chest, but because I know I'm not the only one who's trusted someone they shouldn't have. Sometimes it's family, sometimes it's a friend, sometimes it's that voice in your head telling you it'll all be fine, when deep down you know better. If this made you think, if it made you feel something, or if it reminded you to trust your gut, I hope you'll do one thing: protect your peace. Protect your kids. Protect what matters. And if this story connected with you in any way, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a like. Share it with someone who needs the reminder. Leave a comment and let me know what you would have done. Or if you've ever faced a moment that changed how you trust the people around you. And of course, if you want more real stories like this, ones that don't shy away from the hard parts, hit that subscribe button. There's more to come. And I'd love to have you here. Stay safe, stay sharp, and always listen when something feels wrong. Until next time.